Hello there gamers, it's me Frosty. Let's go back to 1996. The biggest movie of the year was something about America beating up people from another universe. Scott the Woz looked like this, and Nintendo dropped one of their biggest games of all time. Donkey Kong Country Free, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble is a great game, but I'm not talking about it today. And somehow it isn't Super Mario RPG or Mario Kart 64. Today is the 25th anniversary of Super Mario 64. Yeah, remember the days where this guy was just a 2D sprite? Well, screw you, he's 3D now. Super Mario 64 was released on September 29th in North America, but in Japan it was released on June 23rd. But for today, all we care about is North America. Like, Europe didn't even get this game till 1997. Ha! Noobs! So, 25 years later, let's talk about the path Super Mario 64 has taken over those years to become one of the most revered games of all time. The rest of these pieces of paper say penguin murder. Mario was the king of the video game industry in the 1990s. He was what Mickey Mouse was to cartoon animation. He had as many copies, but none were better. And yes, this is a pro-Mickey agenda. But as time went on, the 2D platformer genre was becoming overpopulated by cheap knockoffs of hits like Mario and Sonic, and Nintendo was making strides towards changing that. The idea for a 3D Mario came to Shigeru Miyamoto during the development of one of the most influential 3D games ever, Star Fox. Miyamoto had a vision of seeing 3D Mario leap his way onto the SNES using the Super FX chip, created for Star Fox. But his dream never saw the light of day. On the SNES, that is. The Nintendo 64 was in the works, and a 3D Mario would be the perfect game to launch it with. Wait a minute, that means it's also the Nintendo 64's birthday. Good thing I have another hat. So Miyamoto and his team turned his concept of a 3D Mario game into a reality, to be the big launch title for the brand new console. Imagine getting an N64 25 years ago today, and the first thing you saw was this.
Horny police, how may I help you?
I'd like to report myself. I will say, there are a few historical events I would have loved to see. The Titanic, because Leonardo DiCaprio. Mario leaping out of a pipe at the beginning of Super Mario 64 on launch day, because that's historic. And then, like, whatever The Revenant is based on, because Leonardo DiCaprio. The moment Mario leaped out of the pipe in the opening of Super Mario 64 changed gaming forever. 3D games were a thing, but there had never been a platformer like this. And Nintendo gave Mario some nice 3D cheeks that they never gave him in 2D. And yes, I'm gonna call them again. From that moment on, gamers are basically given full control of the game. You can go at your own pace, explore the different levels, collect stars as you go, and truly have a new type of fun when playing a Mario game. I wasn't alive in 1996, but I did play this game on one of those old McDonald's game stations, so that basically counts. I may have been 5 or 6 when I first played Mario 64, and my memory is terrible, but I still remember that being one of the first video games I ever loved to play. Grabbing that crusty old controller mounted to the display and exploring the Mushroom Kingdom is one of my favorite childhood memories. Because even though the game was around 10 years old at the time, to me, it was brand new. I credit Super Mario 64 with being what started my love of gaming. But so does literally everybody else, so it doesn't count. This game broke the internet before Y2K popularized breaking the internet. Super Mario 64 got flawless reviews, even IGN gave it above a 7. The game was a must-own if you got a Nintendo 64. Like, if you didn't own it, did you even own an N64? But Nintendo did have some competition. Just 20 days earlier, Naughty Dog released Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation. And while Super Mario 64 was the clear favorite among gamers, the PS1 was definitely the biggest console of the late 90s. But the biggest impact we can see from Super Mario 64 is the massive amount of clone games that have been made since the game released. From Pac-Man World to Banjo-Kazooie, many games were influenced or even direct copies of Super Mario 64's formula. And that is part of what makes Super Mario 64 one of the most influential games of all time. Every game developer making a 3D game wanted it to be like Super Mario 64, or at least capture the same magic 64 had. And I mean, can you blame them? While the PlayStation was the biggest console of this era, Super Mario 64 was easily the biggest game, and when that game is an exclusive to Nintendo hardware, someone has to bring it to everyone. So here we are in 2021. People look like this, and we all revere Super Mario 64 for being one of the best games of all time. Looking back, it is crazy to see the evolution of the 3D Mario series. From the Amazing Galaxy to the recent Odyssey, none of these games would exist without Super Mario 64. It's also crazy to see how many times Nintendo re-released these games. The first re-release came in July 1997, named the Super Mario 64 Shindopak Taiyo version. Basically Mario 64 but bumpier. The release made the game compatible with the Rumble Pack, helping gamers feel the action and adventure. Because that's way better than feeling the pain of the real world. The next re-releases came for the Virtual Console ports of the game to the GameCube and Wii. It was basically just the same Super Mario 64, but with a controller that doesn't suck. But the biggest re-release that most people know about is Super Mario 3D All-Stars. And if you don't own this, are you even human? Nintendo re-released 3 of their 3D Mario titles last year for a limited time, giving fans 6 months to buy 3 old games for $60. It did work. Replaying Super Mario 64 and then being able to immediately see its legacy on the same cartridge is truly special. I think Super Mario 3D All-Stars is the definitive version of Super Mario 64. I'm sure there's not another version on some handheld that's even better. Super Mario 64 was closer to a remaster than it was a re-release. And if you don't know the difference, go ask Scott. Super Mario 64 DS was a launch title on the DS, and while limited by the hardware it was put on, it's clear Nintendo wanted to update the graphics and gameplay of 64 in a positive way. Somehow they created far better models when flip phone games looked like this. I've always been impressed with 64 DS. Granted, it's not very hard to impress me, I own many copies of Fallout 76. But Nintendo never really furthered the improved graphics when they should have. Imagine a Super Mario 64 re-release on Wii, Wii U, or Switch, where the graphics limitations of the DS could be eliminated. Imagine if Nintendo actually liked making money. But all things considered, the legacy of this game is very simple. It's influenced every facet of gaming since it released. I know that sounds like a lot, but the sense of wonder that came from Super Mario 64 is something developers still try to capture to this day, and very few succeed. Super Mario 64 is easily on the Mount Rushmore of gaming, but that's a video for another day. I'd wink if I could.